Good evening, everyone, and welcome to HWJC Live for the very first of our live interviews with different members of the community. It's very exciting to be able to start this this new series. And for those of you who are new to this, the way it's going to work is I'm going to be interviewing or having a conversation with, rather, different members of our community on Sunday nights. And please do, if you are watching, please do comment on Facebook, comment on YouTube as well. Give our guests something to think about as they're talking, and also please feel free to ask questions. We hope to be able to ask some of the viewers' questions as well as we get on. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce our very first guest, Simon Lester. Simon, as you may have seen from the bio, has a background in hospitality. Simon set up his hotel company in 1999, successfully buying, operating, and selling hotels over the past 2 decades. And managing large teams of people awakens his passion for personal development. He set up his own leadership academy to help other business leaders who found that learning at the top. There is plenty more that Simon's going to be talking about as well, not just about his business. So without further ado, Simon, thank you so much for braving it to be the first one on the hot seat, and welcome to HWJC Live, the very first one of our conversations. How are you doing, Simon?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, fantastic. So I've given people a brief introduction to who you are, and people have read your short bio as well. I was wondering whether you could give a bit more background to yourself and how you got to where you are.
Goodness, how long have we got? So I fell into the hotel industry when I was around 16. I was quite fascinated to the property world, but I quite liked an industry where you could sort of participate in an event, make people happy, enjoy their evening. And so the hospitality business seemed to combine both. I took a degree in hotel management, and after that I ended up on one of these graduate training programs, ironically in Israel. Couldn't get a job in England at the time. And I wrote to all the hotel groups and ended up working for the Down Hotel Group in Israel for a couple of years, which was enormous fun. And of course, a great experience to be 18, living away from home, and of course, being in Israel. So it was great fun. I came back to the UK when I was about 20. And
interesting to have a background, by the way, in Israel, because the customer service in Israel is slightly different to what we experience here in England. Did you find that was a bit of a transition?
Well, they used to say if you could handle an Israeli guest, you could handle anybody. It was a great training ground. Every guest in the hotel was a VIP, and right. It's a great place to learn. And of course, I used to live in staff accommodation, which was on the beach, literally in Caesarea and in Tel Aviv, so it wasn't particularly tough, if I'm honest.
Fantastic, that sounds amazing. And so what was it that I guess drew you to the hotel business in the first place? How did you end up there?
It was really just a fascination around. I always was interested in property, and just combining the two aspects really was kind of a natural progression. And as many people listening will know, my father had sort of tiptoed into the hotel business in a small way, and it was a natural progression for me, if you like, to join the family business at a later stage once I'd got something to offer. And I worked with my father and his brother and my brother for a few years before going on my own, and that was in 1999. So
yeah, it's been a while. So I wanted to ask you as well, Simon, that sounds all fascinating. I'm just curious, given the current crisis, the current pandemic, it's been affecting businesses in every sector, really, or most sectors. How has it affected you, and how have you sort of adapted to be able to cope with what's going on?
Well, it was funny. I was listening to your introduction. You said Simon's had 20 years in hospitality, and I was thinking, unlucky, I'm going to have another 20 years in hospitality.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, hospitality is about bringing people together for whatever reason. And, the pandemic is all about keeping people apart. So we are diametrically opposed to each other. So it's very hard to adapt in the hotel sector. I mean, sure, we're doing takeaways and deliveries and so on, but, it's very, very hard to adapt because you're not able to bring people together. And so it's been a really difficult year. And yes, we've had some government support, but that can only last for so long. So, I think that the future is very uncertain for hospitality generally. And most hospitality companies are really clinging on by their fingertips at the moment, and hoping that we get through this as quickly as possible.
So what sort of adaptations have you taken? We spoke off camera, we spoke about the different things that you've noticed about changes that had to be made, but what sort of changes have been made in terms of the way people get their food, in terms of the way they get
because hospitality located hotels particularly are very COVID secure environments. So in general, people in hospitality think the government have got it wrong to put these 10 p.m. curfews on, because actually all the evidence suggests that the virus is transmitted at home. So by sending everybody home at 10 o'clock actually doesn't help the situation. And venues, I can speak for our venues, but many hospitality venues are incredibly COVID aware and secure. And we go to extraordinary lengths. I mean, our rooms now, our hotel bedrooms, are incredibly COVID secure. We seal the room after the housekeepers inspected the room. We fog the room with this mist that kills any airborne viruses, and the room is sealed, and the next person that goes in is the guest. And when they go in, everything is being completely sterilized. So it's a really secure environment, and it's a real shame that many businesses are going to struggle.
Yeah, I was thinking that to a certain extent we have similar jobs on our hands in terms of encouraging people without making them feel like they have to, but sort of reassuring people, I guess is the better word, that hotels are safe, and I have to reassure people that schools are safe. And it's a difficult balance to find, because on the one hand you appreciate people want to be as careful as they can, on the other hand you appreciate that actually these are safe places for people to be. So it's definitely a real challenge to be able to find that balance.
I mean, I'll argue that actually a lot of the hygiene protocols that are now in place should have always been in place. And I think that's true. Less so in hotels, where cleanliness generally is of high standard, but certainly in some of the restaurants. And I think that we won't look back from that. I think that hygiene standards and practices generally will be much better now than they were in the past.
Yeah, no, I've always been thinking about that. When you go to restaurants now and you see that the chefs are wearing their masks, and you wonder to yourself, well, if they're wearing masks, they're worried that things are going to get into your food, then why weren't they doing that prior to the pandemic?
Well, what we've done in our kitchens actually is we've put cameras in our kitchens and screens in the restaurants, so that we've made the invisible visible, so that people can actually see what's going on with the preparation of their food. They can see the hot pass. They can see exactly what's going on. So we've made the invisible visible, and that's been really well received.
Fantastic. Okay, so that was interesting to hear about hotels, and there's so much I want to talk about with you. So let's move on to the CEO's element of what you do. I see in your bio it says that you personally coach around 20 CEOs every month, which sounds quite remarkable and quite incredible. And I was curious, and I think everyone else might be curious to hear as well, is how did you get to train CEOs in the first place, and where did you get the confidence from to do that?
So when I was in my early 30s, 31 I think, I joined an organisation called the Academy for Chief Executives. And that was an organisation, a peer group learning organisation, where you meet with 15 or so other CEOs every month, and you come together for personal development, learning, coaching. And half the day is given over to having an expert speaker, and the other half is like a board session where you'll work with your fellow CEOs to solve each other's issues. And I was in that organisation for around 9 years as a member. And then I sold one of my companies, which was a travel management company that I'd built up at the time. And I took some time out. And when I came back and started my own group looking after, I did a year of training. And so I qualified as a coach, as a mentor, as a mediator, and all the other qualifications that one needs to start. But ultimately, it's about having that practical experience of coaching, but also having the practical experience of being a CEO. And I think one of the things that helps me most is I'm still a working CEO. So when I'm coaching other CEOs, I can absolutely relate to their problems. And actually, they don't know this necessarily, but sometimes they help me with my own problems. So, very much a two-way street. And so it's gone on from there, and that's from there on. I set up my own academy called the Leadership Academy, and we now coach and mentor and develop CEOs on a monthly basis. And so I personally get to coach about 20 CEOs a month, which is a big time commitment, but it's a very special relationship that you develop with the CEO. It's unlike any other relationship. You have your family who have a different dynamic. You have your friends who don't really want to upset you, and then you have your employees who rely on you to pay their mortgage or rent at the end of the month. So, in the academy, it's brutal honesty. We have this phrase, we'll stab you in the front. So, we'll always tell you the truth, and the CEOs will really work honestly with no agenda to help their colleagues in the room. So it's a unique environment, and it changes people's lives.
So I guess you do come across many leaders or people in leadership positions in your career, and I'm wondering if you could share with us what you think are the main characteristics required in order to be a good leader.
Goodness, that's a really big question. I can only really talk about my own the things that I've done. I meet many leaders, and most of them have one common trait, and that is that they're all excellent communicators. I think leadership is about really being a good communicator. So it's about communicating your message. And we can talk about the jargon of having a great vision and being able to bring people together, but fundamentally it's about being able to communicate. If you can communicate effectively, you can bring people with you. For me, it's all about developing the team. People say to me, "Oh, you must be a great leader," but it's easy to be a great leader when you've got a great team. So for me, it was about picking the right team and developing that team, and then they just make you look good. But if you ask me what was one of the main characteristics of that team, it's about why people stay in the job. It's because they feel appreciated. They know that the company cares about them. Tonight I was just emailing one of our accounts people whose son has been diagnosed with COVID. And I just messaged her just to say, if there's anything that you need, just let us know. And she's she is one of our account staff, but she messaged me and said, "I can't believe you're messaging me." And I think that's the culture that we try and embellish in our business, is just for people to know that we care about them. And I think if they know that we care about them, they care about the business.
Interesting. I was thinking as you were talking about, from the Jewish perspective, I guess, what is it that makes a really good leader? And if we think about the greatest leader that we ever had as a people, undeniably it was Moses. Not very much the Torah tells us about Moses, but what we can see about who he was number one, he was very patient. And the amount of times that the Jewish people complained to him, and he just put up with their complaints without reacting. He did react here and there, but for the most part, he was extremely patient and also very humble. He was a man of extreme humility, as the Torah says, the most humble man that walked the earth. So I'm sure in your career and what you do, I'm sure you can see that's of utmost importance as well. Without the recognition, as you just mentioned, of that everyone matters, that comes from a place of humility, and I'm sure patience as well is one which is really necessary in the work that you do.
It's really important, and we always say to our team, the most important people in our business are our frontline staff. Nobody will notice if I don't turn up for work, but everybody will notice at breakfast if the chef doesn't turn up. So, we've kind of reversed the pyramid, and our frontline staff are at the top of that pyramid. And now we don't call ourselves a head office, we call ourselves a central support team. We kind of changed that culture around. So, we are at the very bottom of the pile in terms of who's important in our business. And, I kind of grew up in a business where you always address the manager as Mr. This and Mr. That. And there's no Mr. This and Mr. That in my business. Everyone's equal. We're on first name terms. And it doesn't matter who you are. You're just as important as anybody else.
Fantastic.
And I think it's really important that everybody has a voice. So we try and promote that in our business, that everybody has a voice. You may not get listened to all the time, but you definitely have a voice.
Fantastic. Okay, I'd love to talk about your other interests as well, but just before we get on to your other interests, revenge is sweet. You were on the interview panel for myself, and you threw a curveball at me when you asked me what my 3 core values were. I had to think hard about those, but I think it was a good question, and I appreciated the question. But I'm going to throw that question back at you and ask you, what are your 3 core values?
I guess you might take advantage of the opportunity. So my core values don't tend to change really. They've sort of been consistent over a long period. And the first one is to be the best version of me that I can be. And that puts you under a lot of pressure because whatever you do, you want to do it to the best of your ability. That doesn't mean I have to be the best in the world at it. It just means I have to be the best that I can be. I've kind of carried that through, whether it's in sport or whether it's in activities that I do, whether it's at work, just about being the best version of me that I can be. That's definitely a core value. A second core value would be that I think that all the way through my career and my life, I've really embellished the relationships that I've had. I'm very blessed with an amazing wife, 3 fantastic kids. I've a great relationship with my parents, my sister. So it's lovely that that I sit here today and I've got amazing friends, amazing family. I have great relationships at work. So for me, relationships are everything, and that's really been a core value. And I invest time in those relationships. And I think most people that know me hopefully will see that. But for me, I regard relationships as being a real core value. And finally, which kind of leads on from that, is total gratitude. You know, I'm sitting here now talking about hospitality and telling you how terrible it is, but actually, I have an awful lot to be grateful for. And over the years, it's been, you know, it's been very good to me and for me. So just having a really good appreciation of what we do have, rather than focusing on what we don't have, is really important. So total gratitude would be a core value.
Fantastic. I like those ones. I might steal some of those next time I get asked the question. Okay, moving on. By the way, for everyone that's watching, like I said, feel free to ask your own questions as well. I can see your questions coming up as you ask them, so feel free to ask questions. Feel free to comment as well and let Simon know how well he's doing so far. Give him some encouragement, and just say whatever you want to say. We can see your comments coming up, and I can bring them up on the screen as well. Also, wanted to reassure people that this is half an hour, not an hour long. It's 8:30 till 9. Somehow it got advertised as 8:30 till 9:30. Probably my mistake. But it's 8:30 till 9. So short and sweet. But so far it's been fantastic, and I'm really enjoying this. So as we move on to hear more about Simon's fascinating life, we've got through the boring part, Simon. Now let's get to the more interesting parts about your life over here, because there is so much more that you can talk about. And you can probably talk a full half an hour about everything else that you're interested in, but perhaps give us a bit more of a sort of an inside understanding or background into your other interests, other than the hospitality business and other than the leadership training. There is so much more you can say, so please fire away.
Well, I guess I'm drawn to anything with an engine. Most people who know me know I love my cars, and for a number of years I raced semi-professionally in the Porsche Cup, and that was cut short, unfortunately, by an accident that involved me shattering my spine. And funny enough, we were just talking about it earlier with my wife, and I was given a 20% chance of walking.
Gosh.
And in fact, the way it was put to me was I was given an 80% chance of not walking. So you can imagine at 40 years old, being taken down to surgery. I had 3 young children.
How did that accident, do you mind talking about the accident? What happened?
No, I was at Brands Hatch. My wife and children were all there watching me, and I was in 3rd place, challenging for 2nd. The guy in the front of me span off, and he went to
by the way, sorry to interrupt. Are these like Formula? What type of cars are these?
It's a Porsche.
Yeah, Porsche car, but this is just a normal standard Porsche.
Well, it's race prepared, so it's a little bit different from a road car, but fundamentally Porsche.
Fine, sorry, carry on. Yeah, I just wanted to get a full picture over here.
So so the guy span off, and he just went to rejoin the track, caught reverse instead of first, and shot backwards across the track, and I hit him at about 100 miles an hour.
Gosh.
So I ended up shattering my spine, and as I say, I was given an 80% chance of never walking again. And I remember saying at the time, okay, well, that's a 20% chance that I will. And it never occurred to me that I wouldn't. And of course, you know, I'm here today, and it's never been an issue. But it's not an issue. It doesn't hold me back from doing anything that I want to do. So after I finished my.
And how long was your recovery? How long did it take you to really get
about a
back?
year? About a year.
Wow.
I was in a body plaster for 3 months, and then rehab for another 9 months. But I was active. I was having board meetings around my bed at work and in the hospital. So yeah, it was all business as usual. But when that finished, I was then attracted to aviation. So one of my greatest achievements, I think, in my 40s was qualifying as a helicopter pilot.
Wow.
And that was great fun. It was very much a work tool, but it was a lot of fun.
This is when you were how old when you went for helicopter flying?
I qualified at 40 years old as a captain.
And how long was the training for?
It took about a year.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh.
The hardest bit was the 9 exams. Doing exams in your 40s was really tough.
Yeah, and you're also running a fully fledged business as well. So I'm not sure how you had the time for that.
I used to study 2 hours a night and 4 hours on a weekend. And
oh my gosh.
My wife had to mark all my exam papers on a weekly basis until I got an average of 80% before you could be put forward for the exams.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a commitment. But after that, it was great. And then I think 5 years later, I led a trip to the Arctic with a series of aircraft, which was an amazing experience to land on a glacier and experience the midnight sun. It was amazing.
So you led a trip to the Arctic in a helicopter. How many helicopters were you?
There were 5 aircraft in total.
And you led it?
I led the convoy, yeah. It was great.
Gosh. So how does this work? How long does it take? How long was the trip?
It's not as far as you think, actually.
Yeah.
The actual flight was about 1,200 miles to the Arctic Circle. So it probably only took us 2.5 days to get there.
But you had, well, that's not straight. Obviously, not straight flying. I mean, you must have.
No, we flew across to Amsterdam, then on to Denmark, over the North Sea, and then into Norway and up to Bergen, which then became our base for the Arctic Circle.
Gosh, amazing! And then you have to fly back as well.
And then we flew back. Yeah. Good fun.
Gosh, so it's pretty much anything with an engine that you're going for. So it's
an engine. So after that, I then qualified with Linda actually as a skipper. So we both became skippers.
Really?
Well, they said to me, if ever you fell overboard, you need to make sure that your wife can come along and pick you up. So it was probably just as important that we were both skippers rather than one of us. So
Simon, just to cut you off over here, we have a question coming through from one of our viewers, someone who you might know actually. Simon, loving the show. Here's my question: if you could go back and revisit one decision in your professional life, what would it be and why? Totally on the spot over here, so you can revisit that question if you want. So Ed's putting you on the spot. Thank you, Ed, for the question.
I'll get you back, Ed. No, I'll come back to that one. I'll think.
Okay, good. Come back to that. Tell us about the skipper and come back to that one.
Oh no, the skipping was great fun. We had a little boat in Marlow, and initially, and Linda and I learnt to be skippers, and we took the boat down out to sea and down to Bournemouth, which was another adventure. Taking the boat down to Bournemouth, and then I had 3 crew, which were my 3 very capable children. So we they had a childhood on boats, so they're very capable and competent on boats. They all know how to do the ropes and drive a boat. So.
Well, I'm feeling inspired so far, from you as to how to just enjoy life. You don't seem to be bored. Do you ever have a spare moment in your day? Because you seem really busy. You've got this business, you got training CEOs, you are flying helicopters, racing cars, and a skipper. So do you ever have a moment for yourself?
Well, when I do, I tend to be getting involved in Hadley Wood Security. That's why
I was going to talk about that as well. Yeah, which is.
So 16 years ago, I set up Hadley Wood Security in conjunction with a few other local residents, and there's probably only 2 of us now, myself and Stuart Singer, that run the scheme together. We've had enormous success in keeping out crime from members' properties. And we haven't eliminated crime completely, but we are hailed now in the whole of Great Britain as as sort of a model private-public partner. So we work with the police. We have an amazing security team of officers. We've got, I think, 73 cameras dotted around. Maybe Stuart will correct me. Maybe it's a bit less, but there's a lot of cameras and ANPR cameras around now in Hadley Wood that are very covert. You can't see them. And we've done, between us, a fantastic job. I think we've got over 400 members now, 400 families in Hadley Wood are enjoying that protection.
And if anyone's in Hadley Wood watching and is not a member yet, here's a plug.
Well, they really should join. It costs about £3 a day, and just go on to hadleywoodSecurity.com and enjoy the benefits that everybody else is benefiting from. It's a no-brainer, particularly at the moment. There is, the police are telling us, all their intel is telling them that there's going to be a huge spike in burglary and aggravated burglary, because crime has dipped so much over the last 6 months because people aren't
getting hungry. The burglars are getting hungry.
Burglars have had it tough.
Yeah, they've had it tough. Exactly.
Like, you're not
I said that the pandemic's affected people across all sectors, including the burglars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So what I was thinking actually before, when I was just gathering my thoughts about you and about the things you do, you really remind me of the saying, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. We tend to think that it's the people with time on their hands that can do things, but actually the opposite is true. People that are busy are the ones that really put their hearts and their souls into things, and they'll get things done. So the fact that you've managed to set up this security team together with others, but that you managed to set it up despite your incredibly busy life is really remarkable. So
I think that goes with my core values of being, whatever we do, we want to be the best at it. So we didn't just want to set up a scheme, we wanted the best scheme. We wanted it to be the best scheme in Britain, and it is now the best scheme in Britain. So say Commissioner Cressida Dick. I mean, that's
really your scheme.
Our scheme is widely regarded and endorsed by the Commissioner herself.
Wow. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. I'm thinking of coming back. There's 2 questions which people have asked over here. Come back to Ed, but we've got another one over here. This one will be easier for you to answer. So here we go. Anne and Ralph Altman, how is Linda? How does Linda cope with all your extreme activities?
That's a really interesting one. Linda's always. I'd like to say she's incredibly supportive, but she sort of balances being supportive with being worried. So I guess worries like any other person would worry, but she has always encouraged me to grow in whatever area that I want to grow, and I think that has been the secret to our partnership, which is now 31 years along. And we have an amazing marriage, and we both encourage each other to grow and to do whatever we want to do. And I'm sure that she'd rather I just stay at home and maybe do some knitting. But I think, that part of me is doing what I do. And, I think it makes you a bit more interesting for it, perhaps.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It means you get interviewed by your local show as well. So
I guess to talk to you.
Wrapping up over here, but do you want to come back to Ed's question, the hardest question of the night, probably? Revisit one decision in your professional life. I guess it would probably be not racing in that Porsche when you got into that accident. That might be a decision you can go back.
I have no regrets about the accident. I mean, it's weird. Although I'd rather not have had it, a lot of good came from it. It's easy to look good when things are going well, but it's how you show up when things aren't going so well. And what I learned from that experience was how many people were in my life who wanted to let me know that they were concerned about me. And, I can't, just hundreds of people got in touch over a very short period. And it was amazing. It was, weirdly, I would describe it as one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it wasn't fun at the time, but just so much good came from it. And you have to remember as well that I got injured doing something that I loved and was very privileged to be able to do. So, it was my choice to be there. And, when you get into a racing car, you've got a 3-layer fireproof suit, you're wearing a crash helmet, you're surrounded, by a roll cage, you've got a fire extinguisher system all around you. If it's not telling you that it's just a tiny bit dangerous, then something is radically wrong. But it's that, it's kind of that adrenaline, I guess, that you get from being in that situation. That gives you the buzz. So, I got her doing something that I really loved and was very privileged to do. So I was never bitter about it.
Okay, Fantastic. Okay, interesting. I guess.
Just going back to Ed's question,
Yeah.
something in my professional life. Yeah, I guess I wish I'd made the bolder decisions earlier. I think now we're making some decisions in business which are quite bold, and I'm developing a new brand called City Home, and these are huge projects, and there's absolutely no reason why I couldn't have done them 15 or 20 years ago. And I think you almost think in your mind that you've got to sort of you've got to get your experience and build up to things like that. But actually, you don't need to build up to things like that. You can just get on and do it if you don't listen to the doubters. So my biggest regret is not making some of the bigger decisions earlier on in my career, but I'm trying to make up for lost time. So Ed, I hope that answers the question, and I know.
Well, that's a great closing message as well. I like that message just to end off with as well, to be bold. And if you see that something's right, then just go for it. And as long as you're clear about it's the right thing to do, then don't wait around. Just do it now. To quote Ethics of the Fathers, if not now, when? If we don't do it now, then we might never end up doing it. So thank you so much, Simon, for coming on, and thank you for really allowing yourself to be the first one in the hotspot. We've got some people have really been enjoying this tonight. Got a great audience tonight as well. So really, really appreciate you coming on. And
you haven't asked you, it's very hard to say no. So
okay, good. Yeah, you tell them, because I'm going to be asking others as well. So have a great night, Simon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you when we see you. For everyone that was watching, thank you so much for watching. Please God, we'll see you again next Sunday night. We have confirmed Diana Lazarus coming to speak to us. Also another fascinating and really remarkable individual. So really looking forward to seeing you all back then. That's a good night for myself, and keep safe, everyone. We will stay together as a community, no matter what goes on outside, but please do keep safe. Keep strong, keep together, and much love to all.